Welcome to the Content Podcast, conversations with Silicon Valley's creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates.
Hello.
Today we talk with Elizabeth Jiménez Montelongo. She's a visual artist, a poet, educator, and a 2021 Creative Ambassador for the Office of Culture Affairs of San Jose. Hey Elizabeth, how you doing? This is Daniel.
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being a part of this. I'm really excited to talk to you because I don't think we've ever met, and you are a very active, creative person in the community. So I'm excited to talk to you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So we have to do the complete rundown because you're a visual artist, you're a poet, and you're also teacher, educator. So let's kind of pick that apart a little bit. Let's just start with kind of like your painting and your drawing and the visual art aspect of it. How did you get started in like the visual arts and kind of like creating that way?
Well, visual arts has always been something that's just drawn my attention. It's something that I have memories of doing even as a child, like drawing, painting, just making things like sculptures.
Yeah.
Um, and I eventually started taking art classes, and I decided to study art at San Jose State University.
Yeah.
And so I went through the Bachelor of Fine Arts program, and um, towards the end of my time at San Jose State, I began a series of oil paintings based on Aztec dancers, Mexika dancers from the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my first and main series of artwork. It's called The Euphoric Dance of the Unconquered Mind.
You were drawing and kind of like in art and making things growing up.
Yeah.
So at what point did you think like, oh, you're going to do like a arts program at San Jose State? Like, was that encouraged by somebody or you just kind of like, I'm going to go for this?
Yeah, actually, somebody encouraged me. I had never even realized that being an artist could be a career or even like a major option in college. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was considering being a social worker actually.
Yeah.
And my high school art teacher, she just noticed that I would get really into my projects and just kind of take everything to the next level, beyond the requirements that she set for our projects, and I would just really enjoy it. So she told me, she asked if I had any plans to continue studying art or even major in art when I went to college. And um yeah, it was just kind of a surprise to me. I didn't realize that that was an option.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I started considering it. I looked into it, and I realized that's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. That's cool. Now, did you grow up here in San Jose or where did you grow up at?
No, I grew up in Petaluma. That's in
Oh,
the
okay.
North Bay.
Yeah, cool. So then did you come down to San Jose when you started the BFA program or for college?
Yes, I didn't want to go too far, but I did want to kind of, find a new place and be on my own and just focus on my college experience and my education.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I pretty much just applied to San Jose State because that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah. And then you never left.
No,
So, or at least not yet.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been here a good close to half my life. And I enjoyed, I enjoy living in San Jose in this area. I liked my experience in San Jose State and was able to to meet people, and especially when I started exhibiting my artwork and getting more involved in the art community. I
Yeah.
just realized that there was so much going on, art wise and culture, and um, just a lot of like really cool events and people that supported my just my artwork and my career as an artist. And so I felt very at home here.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Then how did you get into the poetry? Was that something that you've always kind of been doing, or is that how did that come about?
My earliest experiences with poetry that I can remember was in seventh grade, seventh or eighth grade. We had a like a unit on poetry, and so we read a lot of poetry. Unfortunately, none of it was like the Chicano poetry that later inspired me to like write in the way that I do now. But I really I liked it, and part of the like the project was to write our own poetry. So it was a lot of like kind of like cliche rhyming at that point. You know, I was like 13. But I continued writing since then. Like I would write just for myself, like things I never showed to anybody
Yeah.
necessarily, just about my own like feelings and experiences. Teen years, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, the emotions of the teen years. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I continued writing since then, and then maybe around, what was it? I think around like 2007 or so. That's when I remember writing like my first poem that I really liked and was willing to share. Yeah, I just kind of like put a little more attention into my poetry in a different way since then.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Now you've exhibited, it said, like, in your bio, like all over the United States, and like 50 exhibitions in galleries and museums across the United States. That's pretty impressive. How did you get into these 50 different shows and exhibits? What was kind of like your process of getting started?
Well, a few of the earlier ones, one was my BFA show at San Jose State. So part of the Bachelor of Fine Arts program is to have a solo exhibition in one of the galleries in the art building at San Jose State. And after that, there was a show there at San Jose State that was organized by students, and I think that kind of gave me the idea like there are shows that I can submit to like out in the world too. And
Yeah,
so I would just send my submissions, pictures of my artwork to when there were calls for art, and yeah, people started responding and including me in these art shows. And as I met people, they would invite me to show in different exhibitions, or I'd meet people through others. Like I'm part of a collective on the East Coast, the We Are You project. So the idea is like it's a traveling exhibition. So with the artists that are in the collective, we've had a good amount of exhibitions together, and that's mostly based on the East Coast. And then through that group, I met other artists that were also working on other projects and had exhibitions going, and so I was able to with their support exhibit in additional venues, and I continued submitting my work wherever there are opportunities.
yeah. It is kind of like a network, right? Once you kind of get a couple connections, then that leads to other ones. But you
Hmm.
have to be bold enough to, or have enough, guts to at least submit it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I've thought about that. Sometimes how it sometimes it took like somebody like believing in me and encouraging me for me to feel like I can do this. Like if they appreciated my artwork or see something in it, then there must be other people out there that also will. Not everyone's gonna love any particular artist's work, but I realized that that's like a possibility, and then like
Yeah,
new
yeah,
yeah like new
that's
opportunities
cool.
open up as you look for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now your work definitely reflects, I guess, your cultural upbringing, right? A
Mhm.
lot of Chicano work and Aztec art and dance, even the euphoric project, right, is with kind of folklorico dancing or something along those lines. Um, what? How does that identify you as an individual?
So, uh, the series of artwork that I mentioned earlier, the Euphoric Dance of the Unconquered Mind, I actually started that because like growing up, I didn't have the experiences of seeing any of the Mexica dancers. So Mexica dancers
Hmm.
are often known as Aztec dancers. But I didn't have that experience of like seeing like the dance, the ceremonies, growing up, and so that was something that I had the opportunity to experience in San Jose.
Hmm.
And the first times I was just present in those ceremonies. Like it really, like I felt something like really special just with all the something in the like the beat of the drums and the colors and the dance and just you can feel like the dancer's energy, like
Hmm.
it's like a spiritual experience. And so like you can feel that um like through the dancers. And
Yeah.
I just really love that. And that's like, that just inspired me to like start like painting the dancers and the dance like in a way that would kind of like represent like how I felt when witnessing that, like all the color and the movement. And it's hard to like show drum beats visually, but I still, I make my attempt with the way I use like texture through my palette knife painting process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's cool.
mhm.
That's cool. Yeah, and then so then, is there a particular medium that you find you're more drawn to, even from words to charcoal to oils, or even sculpture? Because you do a little kind of like multimedia and even a little bit of sculpture, right?
Yeah.
Is there anyone that kind of draws you more?
Yes,
Or
I have. So for the series I mentioned, the Mexika dancers, that's oil painting on canvas, and I like that because I use like really thick oil paint, and I apply it with a palette knife, so it's like really thick. It feels almost like putting frosting on a cake or something.
yeah, yeah.
So I love oil painting, and then I have another series of work that's mostly acrylic ink on wood.
Mm-hmm.
And I add like paper, wood, and found objects sometimes to certain pieces. Um, I just don't limit myself like if I want to add something, but it's not something like I do all the time within that series or like do it on purpose, just if it's like needed.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also have a series of alebrije sculptures. So those are cartoneria, typically known as paper mache, and I do add found objects to those sculptures as well.
Yeah. So, what makes you, like, so you say you have a piece of wood, and then you're starting to
Mhm.
do some charcoals and acrylics on it. What causes you then to maybe put some paper or something else on it? What's kind of like the thought process that goes on?
Well, there are a few different ways I start out. Sometimes I just get this image in my mind, and I think it comes from like experiences, things I read, things I saw,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't consciously put it together. Like I'll just like sometimes just see an image in my mind, and I think like, oh, that's something like really a really cool thing that I could bring out into the world as like a visual image.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's sometimes how I get started. So those kinds of images, that's what I do on wood, and I do
Mm-hmm.
draw it in with charcoal, and then I paint in acrylic, and sometimes like the charcoal mixed with the acrylic and makes a really nice
Yeah.
effect. And other times I just have like an idea in mind, like a concept. Like right now while we're talking, I'm looking at this piece that I have next to my desk here. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Chicana Birth, and that one I was just thinking of like this my like bicultural experience, I guess. My family, my parents are from Mexico, and I grew up in the United States, and so I realized, a lot of the ways I think and act, and that all comes from like a combination of, my parents' the way they raised me. So like from and
Hmm.
like Mexican culture, and then a lot of things I've picked up from culture in the United States, like ways of thinking. And so I made an art piece about that. So in that case, I had the idea first, like a concept, something I wanted to represent, and then I thought of a way of um, representing it visually.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Would you say that you have a, I don't know, a particular voice, or is there a message in general that you want to communicate um, with your various art mediums?
And most of my art, it either like celebrates like culture. In the case of the Mexica dancers, like indigenous culture,
Hmm.
or an indigenous roots of like the Chicano Latinx people, that like a lot of us have that indigenous roots,
Hmm.
that some of us don't even realize until a certain point
Yeah,
in our lives. And so part of it is that, like, acknowledging and celebrating our indigenous roots, and also like my just Mexican Chicano cultural experience and my bicultural experience, is often like reflected in my artwork.
hmm,
And just my just a way of thinking that I've developed just by reflecting on things that I've learned about history, about myself, and just the way I choose to view the world, I guess. And so sometimes I have artwork that addresses that. And my hope is mostly to like inspire people with like the beauty of a visual art piece, like something that people can like say and say like, wow, like, because that I think that feeling of um like seeing something like beautiful or interesting, and that feeling of like, well, what I'm calling like inspiration. Like, I think that's really powerful, like, experience in a person, whether it's like, like someone that we see that we care about, or a landscape, like anything beautiful. I think that's like just good for people in
yeah,
general. And also, if my artwork helps people like, feel proud of their culture and their roots. Um, I've had that experience with, just as a viewer of other people's artwork. And so
yeah,
it's really empowering, like, to see things from your own culture reflected in art, especially if it's hanging like in an art venue. And
yeah,
um, and yeah, also it's just some of my artwork, certain pieces that address like either social issues or just like cultural issues. They kind of serve to like get people thinking, or they might start a conversation, either with me or somebody that they're looking at the piece with. And so I think those conversations are really important too.
yeah. That's cool. So you mentioned that originally you were kind of thinking of doing social work. I mean, do you think in some ways that art is somewhat of an extension of doing social work?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it too much that way, but it is. Well, I hadn't, I hadn't compared the like my earlier decision to be a social worker to like my current experience as an artist. But I do think that I think I'm happy with my decision to pursue the visual arts more, because I feel like in some cases, like, so social work is it's needed, and it does people a lot of good. But I think that um, just being able to like express myself, help other people express themselves like through art, like when I teach art, and like being able to have like those conversations and everything. I think it does do something that's good, like for people's kind of like for it's their spirit. And a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
issues we have in our society are just from like people undergoing like hardships and traumas, and the arts really like help like release that, like through expression and through just even like shared appreciation of like a piece of art and those conversations I mentioned and art making, like all of that is just really good for like healing those traumas.
Was there a time in your life where you created a piece you think that really helped you with kind of like a time that you might have been down, depressed, or trauma or something like that, and you had a piece that really you created out of that kind of space?
Well, visual arts, not really. With I did have that experience with poetry, so
Hmm.
a lot of um, just I guess negative feelings that come up through different life experiences, or just general like self-reflection and things like that have led me to write a lot of poetry, and that's not the I do share this that kind of poetry, and I've had it published, but I think most of the poetry I share is more like on like cultural and like my Chicana experience kind of issues. But I do have another
Hmm.
set of poetry that kind of just addresses like those feelings of like negative feelings and like all the things like negative things that I internalize from like other people's like words or
Hmm.
treatment of me. And these are things that happen to everybody, but I was able to like express those things in poetry,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
did feel that like that release of that. It's almost like you're taking something negative out of yourself and just putting
Yeah. Yeah.
into a poem. And I always kind of like turned it into something positive in the end, like within my poems, like it turns into something nice. Like I kind of switch my perspective on it even just by writing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's very helpful.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. It's almost like I don't know. I think there's like the power in just communicating the emotion, right? Either in words or even visually, then it doesn't have such a hold on you, right? And
Yeah.
I think even like it's almost like then that thing that could be negative because you've put it out there and then you've created something, and then you could be almost proud of the what you've created, and then that even takes away more of the power of that negative
Hmm.
stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Because then it's
that
like, oh,
like
I've
surviving that experience,
yeah,
and also
yeah,
like acknowledging that a lot of the things that people go through, it's not it's like it's not our fault. Like we tend to feel like ashamed or like guilty of things um that just aren't our fault. It's just
yeah,
other people's choices of how to
the effect,
things
yeah,
they do to us
yeah,
or ways they talk to us. Yeah.
yeah. Is there is there a line in a poem that you wrote that you've done that you really like? It almost like surprised you, like it came out of you. You're like, oh, I like it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if you had to put together your best hits, like your top 10. Like, is there something that you're like, well, I'm proud of that phrase and what I said there, or even the idea of it? Do you have something like that that even you could tell us?
um, well, there are a lot of lines in my poetry that I like, and I do sometimes get that feeling, like you said, of like wow, I came up with this. But I don't have like a particular one in mind right now.
Yeah.
Um, I did have a poem here handy in case you asked me to read something, but
Yeah, I was gonna get
um,
to that, so
yeah,
yeah.
I think there's a line here and there in like every few poems that I do that I really like. I like that. um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love to that's why I love to share my poetry. I think like if that something that came out of me has an impact on me, then it might have more of an impact on someone else that also needs to hear it or that would relate to it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so you do have a poem there ready, fired up to go.
Yes,
Would you would you want to read one for us? And you could yeah, tell us the name of it and then go for it. I would love to hear it.
yeah, sure. All right, so this one is called Tacos de Lenguas. Tacos de lengua you force-fed me, and now I can waggle my double-edged tongue right back, a flinty, sparky weapon, electric currents right into my pen. writing to you words held in for 500 years, from the genes in my blood to the genes that spill my blood. Y aquí en este banquete de tacos y lenguas y tacos de lengua, una gran reunión de pedernal, fuego, sangre, historia. Here I speak words that burn, that spark, fires that spread, fires that burn, bonfires, fires that burn out, fires that leave ashes, ashes to cover my body in, ashes to weep in, creating rivers of ink that tattoo the body, that tattoo the soul, ashes to fertilize the roots, roots and ashes, find other roots, roots that move, roots that shake, roots that rattle the ground, a ground of ashes under which lie bones, bones that won't lie still. I saw them rise and connect. I saw the skeleton come together, dancing skeleton dancing with the corn plant, Madre Maíz, and neither had roots. Holding hands, no triangle, a circle, cycling, spinning up into the air. Chose to stay here, return to earth, feet on the ground, roots in the earth, roots in the ashes, on the bones that won't lie still. Rising from the ashes, rise from the ashes. I rose from the ashes. Ashes to ashes, ashes on my forehead, ashes in a cross burned to ashes. They painted on my nopal, and I'm going to strike this lengua on another. Ay, que chispa. Ashes, ashes, but I refuse to fall down, even when I'm 6 feet underground. And mira como le hago. I am a lengua that you label me with. I am my thoughts that I nodded to. I am the palabras you all shoved in my mouth, but I spit them out in a different order, and I order them to emerge, spill in chispas, run in ashes and tears. And from there, where my 2 brown feet are planted, emerges a quetzali phoenix with a long coiled body that rises into the air. Feathers, maíz, and white flowers, que llueva, into rivers and lakes and underground, into oceans and humidity, sips of lágrimas to lágrimas, tears to tears, que llueva, and may the plants grow strong.
That's great. I mean, was that, I mean, that's obviously like a journey for you of personal triumph or something, would you say? Is that like a transformation, not only for you, but for your people and feeling the ancestors or your
Yeah,
culture?
yeah. I was thinking, along those lines, culture, ancestors, and language. Like mainly, that's why
Hmm.
I named it tacos de lenguas. Like just
Yeah.
those languages that that we're made to speak. I don't mind. I don't mind having learned English, but it is an issue. That in some cases people are even now in like today's times. A lot of kids that start school the way I did. Like in when I started school in kindergarten, I didn't speak English at all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
spoke Spanish, and I know, like, I think most people know that historically, like, people, like, kids used to be shamed in schools for speaking Spanish and punished. And I come to find out that these things are still happening today, which is very unfortunate. But that's what I address in this poem, or part of what I address in the poem is just, even like Spanish was, forced on our indigenous ancestors.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I just want to like acknowledge that use of like language and the way that it can be something that wasn't our choice or our ancestors' choice, but we can still just kind of just take it and use it in our own way to express ourselves and our own experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was my, I mean, that's my family experience. I mean, my father and his brothers, when they went to school, they didn't speak English,
Hmm.
but they were getting beat up. So they made
Oh.
a decision that they would not speak Spanish outside of the house at all, right?
Hmm.
So then my father's Spanish is pretty bad, and then mine is even worse because we didn't,
Hmm.
I mean, even though we grew up around, all of our Mexican family and the culture and stuff like that, and eating tacos de lengua and
Hmm.
everything, but yeah, like our Spanish is not that good because they
Um,
had that experience. So it's very much
yeah.
like what you're saying in the poem. But I think even now,
Hmm.
and I think the irony, the great thing is that then I had the opportunity to put my kids in Spanish immersion school, right?
Mhm.
So now they're fluent. They can read and they can write and they're completely literate and they're speak way better than I ever
Oh,
could.
oh, that's
So it's
great.
kind of awesome. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's a lot like that poem, where you see the cycle kind of going and then to
Yeah,
have the triumph of like when you know who you are or something.
yeah, yeah. It's like taking back, heritage, taking back culture, or
Yeah.
choosing,
Yeah.
how you speak or how you, get your your children to learn to speak and just, like not, yeah, not let other people like completely dictate how you speak or the, the pride and just, you know, I don't know
Yeah.
if pride is the right word, but just like pride in your language. Everyone should be able to feel pride regardless of which language they speak or, which culture they come from. Just, be proud and
Yeah.
enjoy who they are. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's one thing I've always kind of amazed at, like how different cultures, set themselves against each other or pit themselves higher or lower than other cultures.
Hmm.
And then when you really start looking at them, they're so similar, what people
Hmm.
want and what people need and what people like.
Yeah, like in the end, like people just want to like, be happy, feel safe, have their basic needs met, make people
Yeah.
do their work and I think about these things a lot. People just want to like eat, have a home, make sure
Yeah.
they're safe and their kids are safe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we have a lot of commonalities. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's that
Yeah.
whole like you mentioned, like some cultures will like put themselves above others, or there's all these even around the world, there's all these like even like ethnic wars that they call them, and all
Yeah.
kinds of things going on. And I think it's just a lot of it's just that idea of like hierarchies, like of just like ranking things like something's always like better than something else instead of just accepting that things are different and just letting them be and enjoying them. Yeah, I always see that like the hierarchy mentality in things.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes out of fear, right? I mean, one group is fearful that the other group is going to take what they have. It's just so, I don't know. It's so base. It's kind of sad. But
Yeah.
it's the story of history, unfortunately. I don't know how we get away from it. You
Well,
seem like we do, but then we don't. I don't know.
well, I have
That's
hope.
why we need the poets. Yeah, that's why we have the poets to help us dream and change. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. We can dream of a better future, better situation, and make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So now also you're teaching. So you teach art. What particular things do you teach, or what's some of the things that you kind of do?
Well, I consider myself an educator. I do teach art. I teach visual art. I was before the pandemic. I was teaching a lot of visual art, painting, drawing, and sculpture. Like I would teach kids
Mm-hmm.
to make the alebrije sculptures. A lot of my work was
Yeah.
with children and also sometimes like families and their kids. And certain programs would like request visual arts workshops and just workshops for events where just people come through and like make a project and go. And I've also been working in public schools for about 15 years now,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's mostly like academics. I started out as like classroom support, teacher assistant. They have different titles for that, but I used to do a lot of that. So like basically helping children like learn to read and do math, and I really
Yeah.
enjoy that as well. Like just the not just the like I don't ever see education as like I'm gonna teach you to read and do math so you can get a job. Like I never think of it like
Right.
that. Even for myself, like I always thought
Yeah.
of education as like an experience of like self development and also that like empowerment that you get from like learning to do something new and yeah, just having skills.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Now, with the city of San Jose's
Hmm.
creative ambassador for 2021, uh, what does that mean? And what do
Yeah.
you do as an ambassador?
Okay, so as a 2021 creative ambassador of the San Jose Office of Cultural Affairs, my role is to get like set up situations where the community, especially San Jose residents, can engage in the arts. So just making sure that people have access to these art experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so my project as creative ambassador is Palabras and Poetry. And so I started this year, it's like a 2021 term for the year. But I had been teaching some poetry workshops during the pandemic, starting in about like August or so. Actually, no, I started like in May of 2020. 'Cause I was asked to provide a poetry workshop, and from there I got the idea to just make these available for people that might be like sitting at home or having a hard time like coping with being away from like people and their regular activities. And
Yeah.
so the poetry workshops are I share a poem by another poet, kind of lean towards Chicana poets or just, Chicano Latinx poetry. So I share a poem and then I have writing prompts so that people can write. And I kind of like guide it so that, like nobody's they're staring at their blank paper. Like I start them off a little bit. So I have like
Yeah.
kind of like a phrase starter, sentence starter kind of thing where they can just, write about. And usually people will start with that and then they come up with really good poetry.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
starting like that, like it gets things flowing, and then the workshops also have like a share out time, so people will read their what they wrote
Oh, cool.
to the group, and so people can like connect and just get a glimpse into another person's experience. So I see that as like a community building aspect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So in this project in Palabras and Poetry, I just I'm changing it up a little bit. Like um, like last year when I was doing this, it was just like something I was offering, and now as it's my creative ambassador project, I'm collaborating with local organizations, to make sure that people can take advantage of these workshops and experience them, and also choose like themes that relate to the organizations.
Yeah, that's cool. What's some of the organizations that you're working with?
Well, so far I partnered with Eastside Magazine
Oh,
and
yeah.
Cultura Marketing to
Mm-hmm.
offer a an event called Esperanza. So we wrote about
Mm-hmm.
hope, and Esperanza will actually it's a theme for the next issue of Eastside Magazine.
Yeah.
So the part of the plan was to like get people started writing and then encourage them to submit their work to Eastside Magazine. And I'll also actually be encouraging people to submit to Culture Counts magazine and another magazine that I'm working as co-editor or that I'm co-editing, so that people can not only write but also see their work published and
Yeah.
yeah, share it out.
That's cool. So, and I imagine these workshops, of course, are online or have to be online, unfortunately, right? At this
Yes,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're virtual workshops through we use Zoom, and the
Yeah.
last one I did was last week for the School of Arts and Culture.
Yeah.
We had um Words of Power, and it was part of an event honoring Cesar Chavez.
Okay. Yeah.
So I offered that poetry writing as part of the event, and we wrote about the power of words.
Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. And then, so this is something that you do throughout the year for the city for 2021. So you're going to continue to do these, I guess, till your term's up, right?
Yes, yeah, I have a few that are currently either being planned or that the organizations have confirmed they want to collaborate to have one of these events. So that there will be more offered throughout, and I will be posting them on my poetry webpage, which is
Mm-hmm.
ejmontelongo.com/poetry. So people can, if it's an event that I set up, it'll have registration there through Eventbrite or just a link to register through the organization.
Yeah, awesome. So it's completely open to the public. I mean, there's no age limit or
No,
any kind of, yeah,
no, it's open to
awesome.
everybody. I mean, like kids are welcome, and I think like even kids that can't write yet could participate. If I were asked, I would say just draw a picture, or even adults if you don't feel like writing, like they can draw little pictures. But yeah, it's open to everybody, and it's free. Um, and I've been doing like bilingual workshops so that like more people have access. So I have the prompts and most of everything in Spanish as well, so that and people can share their work in English or Spanish or a mix or another language, even if they have another language that they write in.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So do you have either like a philosophy or a like life mission statement or something like that that you kind of guide yourself by?
I don't have like a set mission statement, but I was thinking recently, like there's this poem that I wrote about the just the experience in the pandemic, and
Mm.
called it's called War in Times of COVID-19. 'Cause I was thinking of all the like the just all the allegory, the metaphors of like war, and when people talk about the pandemic and like COVID and the virus. And so I wrote this poem, and at the very end, it had reflection on a lot of things, like social issues and all the like hardships that people are really like they're more impacted um because there's already like disparities and just economic disparities. But at the end of that poem, it ends with, what are we really fighting for? Culture, education, and self-determination.
Hmm.
And that's what I think, like a lot of like the work I do, whether it's in visual art, poetry, as an educator, and all my roles and everything, like I'm all about that, like culture, education, um, and self-determination, just having that like that freedom to like choose our own future, our own way of being, and our own destiny, if you could put it that way.
Yeah, that's cool.
Liberation.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like what's the? I love the French thing where it's like libertad. I forget what it is, like liberty,
Oh,
fraternity, brotherhood, and I forget. I always forget what it is,
yeah,
but I
liberté, égalité, fraternité, like
yeah,
liberty,
yeah,
equality, and fraternity, brotherhood.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like that. You have your three kind of statements. You need to make a flag. You need to start your own country.
I was thinking that earlier. And
About
I
starting
don't
your own
like, I don't
country?
like, I don't, no, no, I'm not gonna say that. But I'm not like a big fan of flags for different reasons. But I was thinking of that line earlier actually. Was it the culture, education, and self-determination? And I was thinking of the EZLN in Chiapas, the Zapatistas. They have
Okay, yeah.
there's this, I think it's democracia, libertad, y justicia,
Oh, okay.
democracy, liberty, and justice. But I was like, that doesn't exactly match mine. But I'm a big fan of like their philosophies and their ways of thinking. So yeah, I was thinking like, I don't want a flag, but maybe like a banner or something, or just an art piece that has like those words in
Yeah.
it.
You can make a COVID mask, right? A bandana that can be a mask with the words on it.
Yeah.
So, what are you excited about coming up? What's something that you really gets you kind of like jazzed coming up here in the future, next few months?
Well, some things. I mean, I'm excited about my workshops coming up for palabras and poetry, and um, not, I won't give specifics, but but I'm excited about a presentation that, well, it's more of a poetry reading slash workshop that I'll be offering. And it's for a university, and I'll be sharing that. I think it's open to the public, so I'll be sharing details on that soon.
When is that going to be, roughly?
It's later this month.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's coming up. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that because I did one.
So mysterious.
No,
And
I just,
what's the top what's the top secret news behind it?
I just want to make sure that it is, and I'm pretty sure
Oh,
it's
okay.
to the general public and not just for the students at that university before
Oh, yeah.
before
Okay,
I
that
leave.
makes sense. Yeah.
But it will be posted on my poetry webpage and on my social media. So um yeah, I'm excited about that. And also I have a solo exhibition coming up, but it got pushed. Well, it got rescheduled into the future because of the pandemic. Um, a little more than it already was. So now it's going to be 2023, but I have a solo exhibition at Centro de Artes in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Will you be able to go out and be a part of like I mean, I would think by
Mhm.
2023, COVID's got to be over, hopefully, please.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to go out there and, I don't know, even help put up the show or at least be there for like the opening reception and stuff.
Yeah, that was the plan. I mean, they install the artwork, but the plan was for me to go. Like they even were gonna cover my flight and accommodation, which is awesome of them. So that I could be there for the opening,
Yeah,
and maybe
yeah,
give like either like a talk or some kind of workshop related to the exhibition.
yeah. That's cool. And what's the exhibition? What's the theme or what's it the exhibition focused on?
Well, I'm going to be exhibiting paintings from the series I mentioned earlier of Mexika dancers. So the exhibition title is the same as the series, The Euphoric Dance of the Unconquered Mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, that's exciting.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you very much for your time and for the way that you are affecting the community with what you're doing through your art, through your poetry, and even now as an ambassador. That's a cool thing to add to your
Hmm.
your your like bio. I'm
Yeah.
an ambassador of the arts. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you around town, hopefully.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. To find out more about Elizabeth, go to her website, ejmontelongo.com, and her Instagram at Elizabeth Jiménez Montelongo. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Visit our website to become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the local creatives. This episode's music is Tang by Chris Emond, who is featured in issue 13.2. Follow him on Spotify at Chris Emond and on Instagram at chris.inman, as well as his record label, Orange Label Records.